Ladies and gentlemen, let me give it to you straight today. You must take risk. Now I know that's not always a comfortable idea. We've been taught to play it safe, haven't we? Stay inside the lines. Don't rock the boat. Keep the job. Save the money. Don't step out too far. And I get it, security feels good. But let me tell you something, friends. Security and greatness don't live in the same house. If you want to grow, if you want to change your life, if you want to stretch your potential, then at some point, you've got to put something on the line. You've got to trade comfort for uncertainty. You've got to step into the unknown and say, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to try. Now, I'm not talking about foolish risk. I'm not telling you to gamble your savings or jump out of an airplane without checking the parachute. I'm talking about calculated risk, smart risk, the kind that makes your palms sweat and your heart race. But deep down, you know it's time. Starting that business, that's a risk. Speaking your dream out loud, that's a risk. Asking for the promotion, writing the book, investing in your future, that's a risk. But let me ask you this, what's the risk of not doing it? Let me tell you something about the pain of risk. Yes, sometimes it stings. Sometimes you fall flat, but it heals, you learn, you rise. The pain of regret, that lingers, that whispers to you in quiet moments. What if? What if you had tried? What if you had dared? Don't let your fear write the script of your life. Don't wait until you're 80 years old to look back and say, if only I had. Risk is what separates the average from the exceptional, the timid from the trailblazers, the ones who exist from the ones who live. You don't get to success by accident. You walk there through the hallway of risk. And yes, that hallway is dark sometimes, but it leads to the light. You see, life was never meant to be a guarantee. It's a gift. And gifts are meant to be unwrapped, not stored away in the attic of caution. So open it, use it, risk it, grow from it, take the class, make the call, shake the hand, share the idea, move to the city. Launch the dream, write the first page, build the first brick, say the words, take the step. You must take risk, because the life you want is waiting on the other side. So here's my final word to you. It's not that risk is too big, it's that your dream is too important. Take the risk, you owe it to your future, and your future is waiting. The pain of regret is greater than the pain of risk because regret is a slow ache that lives in silence. While risk, even when it hurts, often brings with it growth, wisdom, and the dignity of effort. Regret is the sorrow of never having tried, the weight of potential left unused, the memory of a door you never opened. It isn't the pain that comes from falling, it's the pain that comes from not even jumping. Risk involves uncertainty, discomfort, and sometimes failure, but those experiences shape you. They give you something to reflect on, something to grow from, but regret gives you emptiness. It is the quiet, haunting thought that perhaps you could have become something more if only you had tried. Risk invites the possibility of reward, but also the chance of failure. It exposes your vulnerabilities. It demands courage, decisions, and commitment. Taking a risk means standing at the edge of the known and stepping forward despite not knowing what will happen. Yes, that can be terrifying, but what many fail to understand is that not taking the risk is a decision too, and that decision also has consequences. You may protect yourself from temporary discomfort, but you also shield yourself from the possibility of breakthrough. You avoid failure, yes, but you also avoid triumph. You stay in the shallow end of the pool, safe from drowning, but you never learn to swim. Over time, this safety begins to feel like a cage. People often overestimate the pain of failure and underestimate the pain of regret. Failure happens in the moment. It comes, it stings, and it passes. You can learn from it, adjust, and rise. Risk is active pain. It engages you, refines you, wakes you up. But regret is passive pain. It doesn't teach as much as it torments. It doesn't shape as much as it shrinks. It slowly eats away at confidence, joy, and the sense of possibility. It is a shadow that stretches over your past and makes your future feel smaller. There is nothing more difficult to carry than the memory of a road not taken, an idea not pursued, a voice not raised. You remember the times you hesitated. You recall the moments where your fear became louder than your ambition. And the longer you carry those regrets, the heavier they become. They pile up. They begin to sound like final verdicts instead of missed chances. You start believing you missed your time, lost your chance, or were never worthy to begin with. On the other hand, even the worst outcomes from risk come with stories, lessons, and resilience. The person who tries and fails walks away stronger, clearer, and more experienced than the one who never tried at all. Taking a risk and failing is an event, but not taking the risk and living with regret becomes an identity. Risk says you believed something was worth fighting for. Regret says you were too afraid to find out. The scars from risk are visible signs that you lived with courage. The scars of regret are internal. They ache in moments of quiet and whisper during stillness. Most people aren't haunted by the things they did. They are haunted by the things they didn't do, the love they didn't express, the dream they didn't chase, the words they didn't say, the business they didn't start, the trip they didn't take, the change they didn't make. Regret shows up when you realize that comfort became your prison, that you traded your purpose for safety, that your calling came knocking, and you never opened the door. We are not born with regret. It is something that accumulates through hesitation and fear. Every time we say later instead of now, we risk adding another drop into the jar of regret. And while risk carries the possibility of temporary pain, regret carries the certainty of lasting sorrow. One bruises the body or the ego, the other bruises the soul. One you get over, the other you live with. When people reach the end of their lives, they rarely talk about how glad they were to have stayed safe. They don't celebrate the times they chose the easy way. They reflect on the chances they didn't take, the fears they let control them, the passion they buried under obligation. Risk may lead to disappointment, but regret leads to despair. One makes you wiser, the other makes you wonder what could have been. To live fully means to risk often. It means accepting that not every path will be smooth, not every goal will be reached, not every idea will succeed. But it also means knowing that the only way to truly fail is to never try. Risk opens doors, regret locks them. Risk energizes, regret paralyzes. Risk builds stories, regret builds silence. The more you risk, the more alive you feel. The more you avoid risk, the more disconnected you become from your own potential. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to move despite it. The pain of stepping out into the unknown might be sharp, but it's clean it passes. The pain of staying behind is dull, but it lingers. You get to choose your pain. Will you face the temporary sting of risk, or carry the long ache of regret? Will you let fear lead you to a life of what-ifs? Or will you take the risk and live a life of at least I tried? There's no guarantee in risk, but there is power in effort. There is self-respect in taking action. There is beauty in daring greatly. Those who risk nothing gain nothing, but those who risk, even if they lose, gain experience, courage, and self-awareness. And often, those are the very things that lead to greater victories down the road. Success, after all, is built on a foundation of failed attempts, not untried ideas. Risk sharpens your edge. Regret dulls your spirit. Risk invites momentum. Regret breeds stagnation. Risk requires faith in yourself. Regret feeds doubt in your worth. So while both come with pain, only one comes with the possibility of reward. Only one makes your life larger. Only one keeps the fire burning inside. You get one life, one shot, one chance to write a story worth telling. Don't let that story be filled with blank pages and crossed out dreams. If you must choose between a risk that might hurt or a regret that will haunt, choose the risk. Every time, because even if you stumble, you'll stumble forward. And forward is where growth lies. Forward is where your future is. Forward is the direction of destiny. Security seeks comfort, but growth demands uncertainty because the very nature of comfort is to maintain what is already known and predictable, while growth is about stretching into unfamiliar territory. Security builds walls to protect the present. Growth breaks down walls to explore the future. When a person chooses security as their highest aim, they often end up sacrificing progress. It's not that security is wrong. Everybody needs a foundation. But when it becomes the main goal, it quietly transforms into resistance. It resists change, resists challenge, resists movement, and anything that resists movement begins to decay. Comfort is tempting because it feels good. It feels safe. It gives the illusion that everything is under control. The routine is familiar. The risks are minimal. The outcomes are predictable. But comfort is not the soil in which excellence grows. Nothing exceptional ever came from playing it completely safe. A life lived only in comfort eventually becomes small, stagnant, and filled with what-ifs. Security whispers to stay put. Growth demands that you go. Uncertainty, though uncomfortable, is where transformation happens. It is the space between where you are and where you're supposed to be. It is the in-between of now and next. It may feel like chaos, but it's actually creation. When you walk into uncertainty, you activate faith, you activate strength, you activate abilities you didn't know you had. Comfort keeps you using what you already know. Uncertainty forces you to learn, adapt, and rise. People who grow are not those who had everything figured out. They are the ones who are willing to take the next step even when they didn't have the whole map. They walked into rooms where they felt unqualified. They accepted challenges that stretched them. They embraced seasons where they didn't feel ready. They understood that growth requires tension, that the pressure to change is not there to break you, it's there to shape you. Growth always asks you to become someone you haven't been before. Security offers ease, but ease can be a trap. When you avoid challenges in the name of comfort, you shrink your world. You start saying no to new ideas, new relationships, new possibilities. You stay in the job you don't love. You ignore the dream that wakes you up at night. You convince yourself that the risk is too big, that now is not the right time, that maybe one day, but not today. And in doing so, you trade your future for familiarity. You let the fear of uncertainty hold your potential hostage. Growth doesn't come with guarantees. There is no promise that you will succeed on your first try. There's no certainty that things will go smoothly. But there is a promise that you will not be the same person once you go through the process. That alone makes it worth it, because becoming is more important than arriving. The process of stretching, of enduring, of learning, that's where the treasure is. That's where your character is forged. Security builds habits, but growth builds identity. When you live for security, you reinforce what already is. You master repetition. You strengthen what's safe. But when you pursue growth, you confront what you've never faced. You step beyond your limits. You discover new layers of who you are. And most importantly, you expand your capacity. You become able to do more, handle more, and dream bigger. You leave behind the person who feared change and embrace the one who welcomes it. Uncertainty introduces a kind of clarity you can't find in comfort. It strips away the non-essential. It tests your commitment. It reveals your true values. In times of uncertainty, you find out what you're really made of. You realize what matters most. You become more intentional, more focused, and more resilient. Growth often disguises itself as difficulty, but that difficulty is the furnace in which your best self is formed. There's a reason the greatest breakthroughs in life happen after discomfort. It's because comfort rarely asks anything of you. It doesn't challenge your beliefs. It doesn't test your persistence. It doesn't call you to rise, but uncertainty does. It asks you to try when there's no guarantee. It asks you to lead when you're unsure. It asks you to build when you don't have all the tools, and in doing so, it refines your courage. It's easy to say, I want to grow, but hard to accept the process that comes with it. Growth means letting go of the old you. It means shedding the identity that felt safe but small. It means stepping into a version of you that may feel unfamiliar but is more aligned with your true purpose, and that step into the unknown is where everything changes. When you embrace uncertainty as part of the growth process, you start to see life differently. You stop asking for things to be easy and start asking for strength. You stop seeking control and start seeking wisdom. You stop craving certainty and start building confidence. Because once you know that you can survive uncertainty, it no longer controls you. You realize that your ability to adapt is stronger than your fear of the unknown. Security may get you through the day, but growth prepares you for life. Growth equips you for leadership, innovation, and influence. It teaches you how to think, not just follow. It teaches you how to build, not just maintain. It prepares you for opportunities that haven't even arrived yet. You may not know what's ahead, but growth ensures that when it comes, you'll be ready. Growth also makes life richer. When you embrace uncertainty, you open yourself to new experiences. You meet new people, you develop new skills, you create new memories. Life becomes a journey of discovery rather than a routine of repetition. There's a spark in growth that comfort can never offer. It's the feeling of being alive, of being in motion, of becoming something greater than you were yesterday. The irony is that the more you choose growth, the more secure you become, not in your surroundings, but in yourself. You begin to trust your ability to navigate change. You develop a quiet strength that doesn't depend on external stability. You become your own anchor. So while others cling to comfort for safety, you carry your security within. That is real confidence. That is real power. You were not made to settle. You were not made to stagnate. You were made to grow, to evolve, to expand. And that means learning to live with uncertainty. That means getting comfortable being uncomfortable. That means recognizing that the life you're capable of living exists just beyond the borders of your current comfort zone. The question is not whether you can do it. The question is whether you're willing to trade the illusion of safety for the reality of growth. Because once you are, everything changes. The path ahead may not be certain, but your growth is, and that makes the journey worth taking.